So we'll jump over to the meeting. I think as we start, kind of one thing I would recommend that we all take away too between, we have the two commissions here is we'll probably get in discussions of, agree, disagree discussions. I think two good homework assignments that I would almost ask we do, and we can, I guess I'll open the floor up to see if we all agree to this, is I think we should take back, because there was a bunch in that presentation, like, rates and different things that some of it was not in the report, Mark, that you gave us a couple weeks ago. So I would almost ask that we all, as commissioners of these two commissions, between now and the January one, we go back and we, between ourselves personally as commissioners and ask the folks that we're kind of, elected to represent, do you agree with what thoughts on the rates for non-season pass things, thoughts on the rates for season pass things, and then the JJ gave us recommendation. I think there's 12 recommendations in there. I think we should all put together, like, do we like them or not? Like, is there some top ones? I think almost as homework, we should almost do all that as each commissioner. So when we get back together next month, we have a good discussion because we've had those homework assignments done. Do we all think that's a good idea? We can go into discussions on each one now, but do we agree that that's a good kind of homework between now and January?
I think that's a great idea.
Who was
All
that?
right.
Brad King.
Okay, I don't think I've met you, Brad. Just got it.
All right, cool. So I think I'll just open the floor up then. I think if everyone agrees that that's what we'll do for next meeting. I think that gives good feedback, right? Because then we could all make calls right now, but it would be our personal calls, maybe not the, the elected kind of what we're here for calls. So I think, Mark, I think the form is we open it up and we all just talk amongst ourselves on, like, agree, disagree, concerns. Is that kind of how we're going to structure this?
Yeah, I think that's what we've done in the past. The last couple of years, we've had the joint meeting just to iron out whatever, have a discussion and iron out whatever differences may arise, and that way there's a uniform presentation to the town council.
Hey, I'll go first. Mike,
Take it away. Take it away.
listen, I think the story is, with respect to the fee increases for the public, should be our expenses are rising faster than our revenue. Okay, and because half of our play is the season pass holders, the season passes have to go up. Okay, now we found, I think we need this detail, but I think JJ was saying was our season pass fees were below market and our greens fees were below market. Okay, so that's kind of the rationale for the fee increase, but I think we need that information from him and what the market is in the area for greens fees and for season pass holders. Because if we raise the season pass up as significantly as we want to, we need some kind of rationale for it. And right now, I think he might have backed into it. Okay, Mark, I didn't see that in his presentation, how he came up with the 24 or the 2,800. I personally don't have a problem with it. Okay, but a lot of people will, and they'll want the rationale for almost doubling the season pass fees.
Mark, I'd kind of mention too, to go along with what he said is, he mentioned courses baselining against other ones here. So others on the phone maybe chime in too, but I did a thing before this and I sent it to just the Parks and Rec Commission. I could send it to anyone. I looked at Shenny, Pequot, Elm Ridge, Winnapogue, Fenner Hill, and River Ridge, somewhat local courses. I'd call it equivalent type quality in my opinion, but that's up for debate, I guess, everyone. And, look at the cost of 9-hole and 18-hole there. And they're fairly comparable, right? Like in some cases we're right on, some cases we're a little lower, some cases a little higher, but the new fee structure is significantly higher than any of those. So I'd be interested in, he had a comparison to local courses. If you look at like Lake Isles, to me, that's like the Porsche of courses. We're at like the Honda to 3 Series level course, right? If you do a car analogy, because I'm a car guy, but like, so you got to compare apples to apples. And where do you want to be? Do you want to be driving a Porsche, or are you okay driving a Subaru?
We need that data, Mark. I mean, that's like,
we need that.
We'll have no credibility if we don't have that. No.
So, I mean, I don't know what others feel on that, but Yeah.
if we don't have that and we raise the season pass fee, our only rationale would be, well, fees are going up faster than revenue, and since half the players are season, and then everybody will be getting into, well, why is the expenses going up so high? Well, the fact is, it's fringe benefits and all that kind of stuff, and I don't think that's good enough. Then they're going to blame the staff and say you guys are all overpaid and your fringe benefits are too high and blah blah blah. It'd be nice to have a little anchor there saying this is what the market is. Because I could tell you, golfing down here, the fees have exploded down here in Florida. They are nothing like what they used to be. Right? And that can't be that much different in Connecticut. Fees have gone up a lot, like all prices have gone up. Okay. We just don't have enough from him to, I think, make this proposal. And if we find that we're like what Mike said is we're basically in line with the market, then the only rationale we can say is our fees are not enough to cover our increasing expenses. And you look on that chart in the beginning of his presentation, and it was clear his EBITDA as a percentage of revenue has steadily gone down to the point where the place is almost break even with no real maintenance being done. Okay. And so that means we have a cost problem. And then the people will be saying, well, why didn't we fix the cost problem instead of raising our fees? You can hear it. So we're not even close, I don't think, yet to coming up with a rationale for increasing the fees. I'm not comfortable at all.
In fact, I'd like to take it a step further and request that we have access to at least some of those slides to be able to present to men's club and women's club members to explain that rationale, because I think in the absence of all that detail, it's going to be a hard sell.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They deserve that. They're the customers.
Yes.
They're the ones paying. Yep. I also like his idea about getting the extra $150,000 from the town because we have a union. Okay, I don't know if they'll buy that, but it's their policy, right? And it's costing a lot of money. And the other thing I'll say lastly is this assumption that we're going to lose single-digit rounds revenue when we increase the fees that much. I don't know how he came up with that. I didn't get a good feeling from him that the 5 to 10% reduction in rounds had some basis. Okay, I think he might have backed into that too. I'm not comfortable with that. That's a really big assumption in this. Okay, that we're going to lose 5-7% of the rounds when we raise the fees. Like his basic assumption is, we're over prescribed in our rounds, and people will step up. And I don't know. I don't know how people behave. I'm not one of those kind of people. I don't know. I don't have that expertise. Is anybody else uncomfortable with that? I am.
I didn't really see the justification for the cost increase, but some of the folks on the phone mentioned they got some feedback from the past folks. So if we had a conversation, we put dollars cost aside for a second. One big initiative he proposed was getting rid of the season pass and giving a discount player card of like rounds. So take the price out of it for a second. I'd be interested to hear some feedback of, I don't have a season pass. I do play golf in a bunch, but I don't have one. Do people like the idea of getting rid of a pass and going to like a discount card? So again, price agnostic for a second. Like, do we think we'd want to entertain something like that? Maybe that's a question we ask for the next meeting, but I'd really be interested in something like that.
I've never heard of it. I've never seen it. I don't know who's coming up with that.
Yeah, Jim, I can tell you because when we were doing this before, we looked across 8 municipal golf courses in Connecticut, and 6 out of the 8 use the loyalty card concept versus season pass concept.
Really? That's
Yep.
good. Wow. And do the players like it?
Well, I don't think they have much of a choice because it's
Yeah.
the only discount offering. You know, you pay a fee up front and then you get a discount, 20%, 30%,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Well, JJ
Of the
does not like season pass holders. You know, he equates season pass holders with members. And
Well, he equates it to members, and he also, I believe, equates it to if you allow somebody to pay a fixed price up front and they come out and play 100 rounds a year.
Yeah.
So let's say somebody paid $1,700.
Yeah.
They pay 100 rounds a year. They're now effectively, and I see the other hands up too. They are effectively paying $17 a round on a $50 rack rate fee.
Yeah.
So is the level of discount that we're targeting that deep, or do we need to target something a little bit more in line with what you would expect from a discount type of a program, which is what a season pass is, annual pass is. Just throwing that out there.
I don't think we're near doing the analysis to figure out what's best for us based on his presentation.
If other hands are up too, just blurt out, guys. If you're on the mics, just you can start talking.
This is Eric. I just wanted to comment on Brad's comment about having the slides, the meetings recorded, so you can go on, I guess, YouTube, I think maybe, and watch the whole presentation.
Great. Thanks, Eric.
Marie? Or backwards.
Mark, do you have one thing he talked about was the software. What, or someone can answer, what do we, he was saying you can get a new one for $15K a month. There's no upfront setup cost. What do we pay now? Like the current software we have, what is our monthly or yearly or fee?
Hold on a second. I'll get that for you.
It's a little over 4,000 a year.
Yeah.
And he said the new one was 15 a year? Yeah, right? Okay.
Hey,
I mean, what are
Chelsea down here in Florida, and it has the standard functionality plus the requests that go out 2 weeks on a, based on the amount you play and all. It's very easy and it works very well. I don't know why JJ is so anti-Chelsea. I mean, it's very simple. It's very easy for people to use. I just don't think we're using it the right way as well.
Well, and I think, Jim, to your point, that's the issue, is we're not able to use it the right way.
Yeah.
I don't think he's anti-Chelsea completely, but.
Yeah. Just he's anti our current functionality or whatever.
Correct.
Yeah.
And currently Chelsea does not have a mobile app option, which I think all of the other proposed software providers do.
Jim, can the Chelsea system down there, when you book a tee time, do you pay with a credit card online?
Yeah, it's online, it's in the software, so I never exchange any money. Yeah, it's all just automatically billed on my card. Yep.
So Jim, it's through a website, just not an app on your phone. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, but there is an app. I just don't use it. I'm like most of the people in Shennecossett. We've never used it. We're old. Yeah. There's an app. So I could show you guys. So I don't think we're changing it out anytime soon. I mean, when I come back up in the spring, I can sit with you guys and show you what the full system looks like. And actually, I do have a manual that has all the functionality too. Eric, if you're interested in seeing it up or reading it up front, I can send it to you. Well, we could do that later, but yeah, it lays out everything the system does. So I'm fine with it down here.
Mark, do we have any control on fringe benefits? Like, there was mention that they're high, right? I get it. Why? Is that an item that you think we realistically have control on, or is that in like the too hard, really not gonna touch bucket? And it is what it is.
Yeah, every couple of years, the town negotiates with its steelworkers union. The employees at the golf course, not all, are part of the steelworkers, and they have contract negotiations either every 2 or 3 years, depending on the length of the contract that was previously approved.
So I guess what I'm asking is, it sounds like we wouldn't have, even if people were agreeable in the change, it wouldn't just affect the golf course workers, it would be town-wide. Is that a true statement?
Yes, there are steelworkers in the Public Works Division and also in the Parks Division. And I think also water pollution control. So um, I'm not sure that negotiating a special arrangement with the golf course falls in line with the fundamental values of unions.
That's what I was getting at. It sounds like it's in the too hard bucket based upon all the other strings that are attached.
There would be a lot of complications. Yes.
Yeah, when I looked at it in detail, Mike, it's all in the medical cost. The pension's not even that big. Because it's a standard fee for service arrangement. It's like Medicare, very expensive for families, thousands of dollars for the plan every month. It would be a big change. That's what they fight for in the unions in the town of Groton, is they want that medical. The low deductible stuff.
May I speak, please?
Who are you?
Who am I? Okay, I'm Marie Shaw. I'm the president of the Women's League at
Yes.
Shennecossett. I'm also on the Golf Advisory Board,
Yeah.
vice chair, I guess, and trying to take some minutes of this meeting, kind of radically. But I put some thoughts down, and I want to share those with you. So please bear with me, I guess. First, I thought that JJ's report touched on some really good points, particularly getting more consistency in how we schedule our tee times. I think that really does need to be looked at, upgrading software. I think he also recommended that we look at the tournaments and what we charge for those. We could bring in much better fee structure with some of that outside play that comes in very inexpensively for us, but it takes a lot of effort and work on the staff. Myself, I would also like to look at what we charge for youth. The age is 21, but in talking with some of the pro shop staff, my understanding is that bringing that down to 18 to really be youth would bring more revenue into the course for college tournaments and so forth. So just looking at that age, it might be able to tweak something. But most concerns I have has to do with the passes and also the greens fees and the rate that the recommendation is to raise them so radically so quickly. I looked at, I think, 10 neighboring public courses. The one municipal course is Norwich in our area. And we are in line currently with season passes and rates, pretty much so. I think Lake of Isles is an anomaly. I don't think that's a peer for us, as Dan said. But if we went with just with the adult recommendation that Mr. Keegan has to raise the rate to 2,800, that is a 74.5% increase. That is astronomical. Also the increase for a resident, excuse me. So for residents, if we have one rate, if we do not have a resident rate anymore, I think we do a disservice to all the people who have supported the course. The taxpayers, I'll say for myself, have been a taxpayer of 2 properties for 48 years in Groton. I think that really is a disservice to our Groton residents to have to not differentiate between resident rates and non-resident rates. A resident rate for an individual adult would go up 74.5% if in this model being proposed, it'd be 56.9% for a non-resident. For a family, a Groton family, the rate for a family would go up 61.3%, 45.2% for a non-resident family. So just to think about that, we'll be raising the rates much higher for our Groton residents if we had a common fee structure. That really upsets me.
Every time you do that, I think somebody's
The other things I'd like to say, I'm sorry, I'm just going to continue on, then I'll go back to taking notes. The Park and Rec department has 4 pillars in their mission. The Golf Advisory Board also has goals and objectives. And those of the Golf Advisory Board, which are in line with Park and Rec, have to do for the course to improve player experience, increase diversity of player demographics by gender, age, and ability, promote family play, change the perception of golf, and utilize sensor technology in irrigation decisions. These are just some of the objectives, but these are the ones that I find are not in line with this report. To increase the ability of all Groton residents and all residents to play and to does not align with the perception that we're going to raise rates. So I really do have a problem with that as well. So I've talked, thank you for listening. I do think we do need to raise rates at some point, at some level, but to step it up over time, I think we need to do market analysis to know who it is that we're going to be raising the rates for. Can the next generation afford golf? I'm not so sure. Not to the extent that many of the retirees can. But I am concerned to change the rates and the perception of Shennecossett so radically and so quickly. I think we're going to find ourselves in trouble.
Hey, Mark, do we know if other towns kick in to their municipal golf courses? Or is Groton the only one that's not given any money?
Yeah, I don't have that information.
That's really important to know. It is.
Is there others on the phone that haven't spoken? I know I tend to speak a lot. It's just my personality, but is there anyone that wants to talk? I mean, I want to give the floor to anyone. Good suggestions. Appreciate that comments. I think it's good to hear everyone's kind of opinion. Is there anyone that hasn't spoken yet that wants to bring something up?
Mike Serio, your hand is up.
What was that again, Margaret? Sorry.
Said your hand's up. Would you like to speak?
Oh, no, I didn't have, I'm sorry. I think that's been up. I'll lower it. But maybe just really quickly, based on what Maria mentioned about, what's being proposed, I think it goes back to what I was saying originally. I know I made some of these comments before we actually kicked off the GAB meeting, but I think it has to start there, though. What is the vision and mission for the golf course? And, what is it that we want it to be? What does the town of Groton want it to be? And what does that picture look like? I think that's huge for people's perception about, where we're headed. And, one thought is, hey, it could stay as is, and, we make ends meet the way it is with maybe some slight increases. And then the golf course, in terms of the condition of, from the clubhouse to the bunkering and so on, it's gonna go on the way we've been doing it, to date. And I don't know, maybe at the end of the day that's fine, but I'd like to see us, paint that picture for people so they know, okay, this is what it's going to be.
Yeah, I think that's really good idea, because I think I agree with you. I think in my eyes, the consultant, what JJ laid out, right, he's trying to bring you up to the next level course. Lake of Isles, like someone said, is a different level course. It's not on the same field as Shennecossett, at least in my opinion.
No,
If
definitely not.
we fundamentally want to get there, this
I,
is a path. If we think that we don't want, as you know, as a team here, we think that there's a certain level or vision we want to get to. I agree. I think that sets the what you want to do depends on what level you want to get to. So I 100% agree with that. I think that makes a lot of sense.
yeah, I
One
appreciate
thought
your,
on that, Mike, one other thought on that. It wasn't the intent of contracting with JJ to just solely review the fee structure. Okay, we were looking for a view of the course, how efficient it was, what condition it was in. No one said that, that we had to absolutely raise fees.
Correct.
But his presentation was oriented towards fee increases, okay, in one way or another. He did not get into how can the maintenance staff do a better job? How can they make the course better within the cost structure that we have? Okay, so there's a lot of stuff missing in this report that we got to really think about here.
yeah, just going back to the earlier point about, bringing up to be comparable to Lake of Isles or, a close second. I don't think that's achievable because, Lake of Isles, just based on the designer that designed it and the money that poured into that, and we know, the casinos have, unlimited funds. I can't imagine, we're probably talking 30, $40 million to build golf courses like that. So I don't think that's in the realm of where we want it to be. I think it's more about just preserving the course as a Donald Ross course, knowing that, hey, it's not going to be pristine like Lake of Isles, and frankly, it's not meant to be because it's a link style golf course. So, but there are things, and I reviewed the slide that I know Eric contributed a lot of time to, that was in JJ's file about what needs to be done sort of hole by hole. So there are a number of things that do need to be done. But then it's just a question of how rapidly do we want to get those things done, and how rapidly can we get them done? So if there's not going to be that much contribution from the town going forward, then it has to be, self-generating. So it's just how far do we want to go? I think that's what has to be established first, and then we could say, okay, the rates do need to go up, but they need to go up by, I don't know, I'm just going to throw a number out there, $200, or no, we really want to have the best municipal golf course in the state. And yes, then the rates do need to go up significantly. I think we got to define that first.
Yeah.
And I think with one last point, the only thing that scared me from JJ's original presentation was he talked about, a death spiral because of rising costs, and not maybe optimal revenue. And then the course could go into what he termed as a death spiral, right? Now we don't have the money to maintain it. And now the course gets run down. And we see, as popular as golf is, there are golf courses that are closing in the state, So one of them was Woodbridge Country Club, which was a pristine golf course that, that wound up losing its membership. Then it went public, and then it went under. So if the conditions aren't there for the buck, the people aren't going to go there. They're going to go somewhere else.
Great point. Thanks, Mike.
Yep. Thank you.
And I'd almost suggest to folks too, like, he looked at improvements. I think one thing we should consider is, there's rate structure, right? And that brings in revenue. But some of the things I kind of caught that he mentioned was, there's some risk things, like if the irrigation goes right, if you don't have water, your grass dies, you can't play, or you can play, but you lose people, as you just mentioned. But, you look at some of the things like the driving range, right? It has a potential to do revenue back. So, there might be projects which, hey, we can make more revenue, which just helps us in the long run. But even if you look at like the costs of the driving range you put in there on, on the page, in one of the pages in the 57 or in this long report here, I think it's paid, like,
you know, I think we got to decide too, like this is a nice driving range, right? This is like your ultimate man cave backyard barbecue, right? Like sometimes you just want to go buy a Weber grill or you want to buy like a throwaway $20 grill at Home Depot. Maybe it's not $20, but $100, right? So some of the stuff in here, do we really want to go that nice? Like maybe you can cut. I personally looked at it and said, I think you could cut half those costs out there, and I feel like you'd probably still get the revenue. Um, so sometimes that's knowing your group, right? Like, are you going to have people sit out there and smoke a cigar on the range? I would personally guess probably not. I think you're going to have people hit balls and leave. It's a place people are going to functionally use and leave. It's not a congregation space. Maybe I'm wrong and look at like the Top Golf, centers around here, right? People loved them for like a year and now they're struggling and, they might go into bankruptcy if you read the news. So I think we got to be really careful on the usage you have, and the cost can be half or what it is depending on what you want.
I agree with that point as well, Mike, because that's again goes back to the vision, right? That's a top tracer range. So it's got all the new technology in it and so on. It's covered. So you could have it, be a covered range, or it could be uncovered range, but it could just be a number of bays where people can warm up and hit balls before they play, which is, like Keeney Park in Hartford. That's what they have. It's not a huge range, but it's good enough and would be much better than what we have today. But at a much lower cost.
Yeah, and that's what I was challenged to, Mark. I think we're going to ask you for some help here when you look at the cost numbers, right? There's things for land preparation, so nothing is free, but in a manner of speaking, some may be. If the town has bulldozers and time in the winter, right, and has staff that prepare roads, I don't know if this is true or not, but if they have quote unquote downtime in the winter, is some of that already? Again, I don't like to use the term free, but if we have people that do the work and they have time, it is quote unquote somewhat free because you're already paying the people to do work. And if they help us do a project, does that get cut in half? You look at those posts, how tall they are. That's incredibly tall. I mean, that's like a Top Golf, like an airplane's going to fly over it. You might not even be able to put that there because you have an airport nearby in Groton. But if you go look at I think Winnipeg, they have a driving range, and I think it's somewhere down by the water there, and there's no post. The driving range is like right on the road, and you can just go hit balls. Like, is there a risk from a liability the town has? Like, do you really need that liable? I'm not convinced this is the right. I like the driving range, yeah, but I think it needs a spin on what. We don't need the Ferrari, but I also don't want to drive a Pinto and it blows up on me day one.
I'd like to say something else, if I may. I do disagree with the kind of triangle model that he had, the graphic about golf being discretionary, and at the base with police and education at the bottom, and then libraries in the middle, and golf being the discretionary. Golf is a sport, and I think it's extremely, it meets many of the goals of Park and Rec. It's like pickleball, it's like tennis, it's like roller hockey. It's we play out there as in community, we really do, and I think that helps fulfill the Parks and Rec's mission for inclusion and also for physical activity and healthy living and so forth. So I really do disagree that golf stands alone at the top as just something for individuals. It maybe some of you who play would see that experience as well as I do. I'm on the public library board and for years in town, and I have witnessed great benefit where Park and Rec and IT and other departments, the police department, when they work as a team in the town of Groton, there's efficiencies in economy. There's also connectedness in community, and I like the idea that if indeed we can't keep all the few maintenance workers, and I don't think we're overstaffed, trust me, busy in the winter, that perhaps they can work in another department. Those of you who play at Shennecossett, we've seen these golf paths that were put down with a cooperation with Public Works. They had some of the asphalt, that works. So I think there's efficiencies when the town departments work together. And maybe that's a way to look through a different lens than just going to everything outsourced, outsource, outsource, outsource. Okay, so just wanted to share those ideas.
Great thoughts. Appreciate it. Floors open? Do we have other discussion we want to go over tonight before we, I don't think we're voting on anything that we said. Mark, I think the plan is in January to actually vote on like rates. And then I think we would also come with a proposal of like, we think these are the things that we should go and invest in the future. Is that a good summary for January expectation wise?
Yeah, I would hope that at the next meeting, there could be some agreement on setting rates. You know, I've been listening and from the discussions, you know, it sounds like there may be some bigger issues to discuss before we even get to rates. Like, what do we want Shennecossett to look like? You know, I think JJ has presented a model where, you know, the golf course is not going to be able to sustain itself based on current pricing, the current number of season pass holders. You know, we've seen over the last number of months decreasing revenue, given that there's fewer green fee players that can get on the course. You know, so I think there's a lot of things to discuss before we get to the rates. And, you know, I'm not actually sure that at the next meeting we're going to be there.
Thanks. So I'll open the floor. I don't know if there's other people who want to chat tonight, other discussion, but floor is open.
Yep, Eric. And then I think there's 3 attendees who also have their hands up.
Yeah, I wanted to just make a comment. What Marie said about the cart path work on the golf course. All of that cart path work was done by my staff. We did get the product for free from Public Works, but it was my staff that did all that work.
Mr. Murray, you have your hand up?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So I think a year ago, there was talk about capping the membership, and the committee said they did not want to cap the membership. And now we have 500 members, and now you're telling us there's too many members and we're not making enough money.
That is correct. The recommendation to both the Golf Advisory Board and the Parks and Recreation Commission from the golf course superintendent, the pro shop, and myself was that we limit the number of passes, and that was rejected.
Right.
Mark, rejected by who? Like the councils, or just fill me in, or like the town council?
No, that was turned down by the Golf Advisory Board and the Parks and Recreation Commission.
Okay, thanks.
So now the consultant is telling us we have too many members, and we have to maybe eliminate membership because the golf course is not making enough money. I mean, you guys kind of, I don't know who, somebody made this happen. Like, this problem could have resolved itself.
I think, you know, JJ's proposal, there's a number of different options. And I think trying to figure out that sweet spot that meets everybody's need is going to be our challenge.
Yeah, so it sounds like on the table is, you know, membership, but limiting is what you're recommending, and it's an option on the table. It was maybe in JJ's presentation. It sounds like that's what you're bringing to the table here for folks to consider, correct?
It was on the table and it was rejected, and now you're telling us we have too many members and we're not making enough money. So I don't understand, what are we doing here? I don't understand what we're doing here.
The question isn't we're not making enough money. We're making enough money to support operating. And we're putting some money into our fund balance. But the proposal from the consultant is looking long-term on how the golf course can not only sustain operating, but build up enough capital to do all the projects we want to do. And currently, the way we're set up, we're only going to sustain operating and have a little bit of capital money.
Okay, so you're going to eliminate membership so that we have more green space when you rejected capping membership.
So, Tim, I don't think the direct goal is we're not saying that we're going to reduce memberships. We need to look holistically at how the revenue for the course is generated and make those decisions. There may be a natural attrition, there may not be, but we want to make sure that the revenue for the golf course is sufficient to do what Eric was just speaking about. We need to get beyond just being able to make enough money to operate year over year and move to a place once we've kind of gone back and I agree, determined kind of a vision for what we want the golf course to be. Do we want it to be a municipal golf course that is just kind of there and people can come and play for $20 a round and we're good with that? Or do we need it to be something else? And no opinion there yet.
That is such an exaggeration of what we're doing. That is such an exaggeration of what we're doing. You're telling me we're gonna play, somebody's gonna pay $20 for a round of golf at Shennecossett?
They do.
It's just not, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Right. So when we take a look across, what we need to do is ensure that we have adequate revenue coming in to be able to support a vision for the golf course. That and be able to support the capital projects that are needed in order to basically maintain and improve the golf course.
Okay.
I mean, that's it.
You keep saying the same thing, and that's fine, but I don't understand how you're going to do that. I don't understand when we asked you to cap membership and you said no. And now there's too many members, so we're going to delete it. Like, that just doesn't make what you did and what you're doing doesn't make any sense.
I think the discussion is we're trying to make corrections to a decision that was made last year, and the consequences may not have been fully anticipated. So now we're trying to take corrective action.
Well, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And I know we have to take corrective measures, but this seems really harsh. It seems harsh. It seems harsh for the membership. It seems very harsh for anybody who's trying to play there. I disagree with what you're trying to do at this particular moment. I understand what you're trying to do, but I disagree with it.
And I'd like to just kind of point out that there is no such concept as a membership at Shennecossett. It is an annual pass holders, season pass holders, and they are players who play the golf course. It's not a private course. And I think we need to be really mindful of that and the language that we use going forward.
And that's part of the problem. I'm done. Thank you. Great.
Thanks. I can't see the screen, Mark. Is there someone else with a hand up that wants to speak too?
Yes, there's a Chuck Potter that has his hand up.
Good evening, and thank you for hearing me. I hear words. Am I being heard properly?
Yes.
Great, thank you. I hear words like to raising enough revenue to support a vision and doing capital things at the golf course. I think if we keep those two things in mind, Shenny is maintained very, very well. Thank you so much, Eric. I'm grateful. And I think the improvements that are being made there steadily are excellent. With the number of members we have, it is difficult for many people to get the tea times they want. It also creates the obstacle of having so many paid season pass holders that there is not enough daily revenue coming through the door. We understand that. And in those two factors, I think there has to be some sort of an equation as to how much we expect to get through the door. What's the balance between membership and openness? So I think that equation has to be discussed and investigated. But I don't think, and I say this as a non-resident who pays perhaps the highest yearly fee pass fee available. Hopefully soon I'll get the senior rate. But until then, I think it's important that we keep the fees at a level that the golf course can be maintained as it is with the capital improvements that it needs. And I'm not sure a heck of a lot that it needs. I think what's being done, I see around the bunkers and the tee boxes, that kind of upkeep is absolutely wonderful. I think perhaps enhancing the practice area, but not turning it into a full-fledged driving range might be something to consider, or maybe becoming a full-fledged driving range as time goes by. But I don't think there is any cause. When I saw the figures for the proposed prices, I was I came under the belief that this commission or this board would not allow such large numbers to be enacted. And I have to believe that. And I hope that the public response, the community response, fortifies that belief. But I am prepared to pay somewhat of an increase every year as the price of life goes up. I understand that. But I don't want us to try to turn this golf course into some sort of a premium golf course. Just as a quick example, yesterday the golf course was not playable. There were people here who drove 90 minutes to play our golf course. So it is attractive. It is effective. If we can get more greens fee payers and have a membership that can has good access to tee times, I think there's a balance that I would like to see this board come to. I think that's all I have. I don't know who used the words death spiral, but I don't see us going into a death spiral. If we did nothing for the next season, but there is money that comes in and is enough to put into I think it was the general fund or the capital fund. I'm not sure what words I heard. But we can continue to nurture and grow Shennecossett. We should not be trying to make it something different. It is already different. It's unique. It is, if we really wanted to do something, we might try to get it on the National Historic Landmarks, as old as it is and as wonderful it is and as renowned as it is. But I don't think we should be doing too much to try and make it like something else. It is something else. And people appreciate that from not just this area, from across this nation. So that's what I have. And thank you for hearing me.
Thanks. Appreciate the feedback. Let me just ask, because appreciate you're on the call, because I don't think you're not on any of the commissions, correct? Is the person I was speaking still on?
I believe that's correct. I don't believe he's a member of any commissions or boards in the town of Groton.
Okay. I was gonna poll him and just see, like, did one of the things we hear about is more revenue. It sounds like I'm not sure I understand that, as you have a membership, you could play twice a day, right? And you could play the course to death. But like, I'd be interested in some stats too, maybe in our own internal of, do we have a lot of people that are memberships that play an ungodly amount? And where my question is going, and this is not to the, so this is probably to our internal. I don't know who I would direct this to, but like, do we have a handful of people that just play an ungodly amount that we need some type of limit to, because they're hogging all the time? Now, membership does come with benefit, but does that benefit need to be a limited benefit is that really a problem? Is there 5 people that play 1,000 rounds, and I don't know if that's exaggerated, but that play a certain thing that are taking up revenue time, and if that's somewhat limited, not like you do get benefit from membership, would that kind of help our problem? So I think I need some data stats personally to be able to make some better decisions on that. I'm going to open the floor because someone might be able to answer it, or might be a homework question or whatever. But
I had my hand up. I think, can you guys hear me?
yes.
Okay, so this is Maria Tompkins. So I was kind of wondering along similar lines to you, like, is there data to say, like with gym memberships, we know that people have annual gym memberships and go 5 times a year. So are these 500 members who really is playing all of the time? I do know my husband is Dylan Grant, and he is one of the players that plays a lot. However, they will play at 7:30 in the morning because they can't get prime time tee times because of how difficult it is. So I do know that there are people who do play frequently. I wouldn't say 1,000 rounds at all, but they do play a lot. One of the things that I was just thinking about, while listening to everybody, is would it be something to look into and have during those prime time months, June, July, and August, even if you are an annual pass holder, that you still would have to pay a green fee for like a prime time, during that season, because there are a lot of the year that you can't play being in Connecticut as opposed to Florida or Colorado. But then that kind of helps to balance out that revenue issue when we're talking about people just paying a one-time fee earlier in the year and then just being able to play, all year round. So just some things that I was thinking about. And then also, you're talking about 500 people being too many members. Did they give a number of what is an acceptable amount of, or not, excuse me, not members, but annual pass holders, what the ideal number of that would be if you were to cap it? And how would you come up with that number? Because I think one of the great benefits of having a public course is that it is accessible to everybody. And you're talking about making it the best in the state, but you really need to look at your audience here in Groton and the surrounding towns and the median income of this area. And if we're, comparable to the other public towns in the area, I think you're going to end up losing a lot more yearly pass holders than you think if there's no benefit to them playing at Shennecossett exclusively.
Yeah, Maria, this is Margaret. I can tell you that JJ quoted early on in the conversations 350-ish was around the optimal number for the number of folks, annual pass holders.
So then I guess I'd be interested to know, like in looking at the rounds played per year, how many of those are by members, and does it make a difference in terms of how much they're playing? Because Dylan is whispering to me that he played 43 rounds last year, which just like quick math is pretty comparable to paying, the annual fee and like a green fee with the increase. But like, are there people who are paying the annual fee and they're only paying 3 times? So are they balancing each other out, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, so every month there's a golf report that's published. It's available online. In fact, if you go to the town of Groton, it's there for this week, for this meeting. And you can see they track statistics based on the month, the weather events, and then a summary of the number of greens fee rounds versus season pass rounds played across the year. And then they tackle the fiscal year, the prior fiscal year, and then an average across the prior 4 years.
But is there any way to see, like, for example, in the month of November, how many annual pass holders did not play golf?
That's a great question.
You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm
no, I
wondering,
agree
how
with
many
you.
of those people
I
are
agree with you.
not actually playing.
Yep. Nope. I hear you.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea because it almost sounds like our system can't provide data analytics that we need. And I think I think Margaret, I can't who was just talking, but I think you're
That's
right. I think um I think it's a great way because you got to figure out from your season pass holders, are they hogging all the times in a certain month? Like you said, is that something you have to address? Or maybe you pay in a peak month, maybe you get a membership, but you have to pay an upcharge of $10 to make a reservation. But but if you don't make a reservation, you can walk out anytime the same cost. So maybe there's stuff like that we need to be able to figure out. It sounds like to
Yeah.
me, and maybe part of it is a phased approach. Like someone said, I was shell shocked on the increased percent too, right? I mean, I think across the country, not just in golf, we're killing ourselves by increasing costs so much, right? It just the salaries aren't going up to the way everything else is, right? It's ridiculous. But separate conversation than what we're here for. But
Yeah.
the maybe it's part of it is, hey, we have to do a better software so that we can get that analytics for next year to consider a substantial increase or substantial policy change because we don't have good data facts. I'm a data driven person.
So,
I don't have data.
right.
I don't like it. So I think we need some of those facts. So we need to be able to figure out how to get to them to figure out what the best decision to make is.
So I would say that, and Mark, help me out. I think that some of this data has been provided as background information.
I'm
So
sorry,
shouldn't
Margaret. What was that?
Some of these numbers have been provided.
Yes, some of that information is provided. I don't know. I think our golf pro is on the line, and perhaps he can speak to other available data that he's collecting. Todd,
Is
are
the
you
pro on?
on? Oh, I thought Todd was on. Perhaps he's not.
He's not.
Okay.
But so they're buried in the report, which I know is significantly long, about 100 and some odd pages. There is some information that kind of covers some of the questions that are being asked at this point.
So
Like on page
Todd's
50.
out sick. He's not on the call right now. The Chelsea system, we don't have any way to track how many rounds Dylan Grant played last year. We can't look that up in the system because we don't ring the annual pass holders don't have a membership card that gets scanned every time they play. That's the only way we'd be able to track that information, and we don't currently have that capability.
Yep. So if we were able to track like everybody when they played checked in, then we would be able to do that, right?
We would. Right now, like JJ did in the study, we can pull from tee time data. So if Dylan made a tee time under his member number every time he played, we could get that information.
There we go.
But now you have groups that play every weekend where Tim Sisk books the tee time for his group, and it's Tim Sisk, Tim Sisk, Tim Sisk, Tim Sisk, all 4 times. So now when we pull that information, it's going to look like Timmy played 800 times, but he had 3 other people with him.
Right. And so I think that is in part of when we have the discussions now or in January, that those are potentially some low hanging fruit that we can use to try and get to some of these better numbers.
What number?
And also, like we talked about, the annual pass holders, members, they do have a benefit. They get to book their tee times 1 day ahead of everybody of
Correct.
the general public.
Yep.
And that has caused an issue with more membership play, less general public play, less money coming in. Because the prime tee times are being filled by pass holders.
Right. At a discounted cost.
Yes, I mean, I think that's things we got to look at. Like, is there certain things in June, July, and August that on the weekends everyone books at the same time? Like I think there needs to be things that we consider that's not just all 12 months or not. I think we need to consider solutions that are maybe raising rates, maybe not raising rates, and then what else can we do to help keep membership or keep pass holder benefits? But sometimes if benefits get too great, we cost ourselves out, right? I mean, look at look at how we are with society, right? Not many jobs have pensions anymore because they were unsustainable, I believe at least. But like, you know, how do we keep benefits, but keep them on a reasonable level? I think that's what we really need to consider as commissions.
Right. And I think that's where the loyalty pass concept started to leak into the conversation. Allowing a discount, allowing benefits to play, but perhaps not quite as deep a discount.
Margaret, this is Brad. To your
Yep.
point, and this is more for the benefit of the people listening online that didn't have the benefit of being at previous golf advisory board meetings. I think a lot of them are alarmed because the only thing they heard about was the proposal to raise the season pass rate by 75% overnight. But there were other proposed options, one of which, and this speaks to Marie's point, based on the number of rounds you think you play or may play in a given year, there was a proposal for a few different categories for discounted greens fees, right? So you don't have a season pass, but if you project you're going to play 30 rounds, I'll pay for $199 or whatever that fee is at the beginning, and that entitles me to some percentage discount on my greens fees. And then another category where if I play 50 rounds, if I think I'm going to pay 50 rounds, I might want to spend a little bit more on a different discount category. And I think that we have to get all of those different proposals out to the men's and women's club so that they understand that we're not just proposing that one option of the 75% increase.
Correct. Thank you. And
so we kind of butted in when the last public person was speaking. Did you have anything else you wanted to mention too? So we didn't cut you off totally.
Oh, there is one last thing I'd like to say, and I'm going to go in a little bit of a different direction here. So I'm a very numbers-driven person. I'm in agreement with others that mentioned we need some more data on some of these items, but I'm going to switch gears and go in a different direction right now, and that's more about what is special to me and a lot of our season pass holders about this club. Somebody had mentioned in one of the reports about how you look at our events like our club championships and four balls, and you have swarms of people out there as spectators, fellow season pass holders, fellow men's club members, fellow women's club members. It's a very special place, and we have a huge diverse community that plays all income levels, races, and I don't want that to change. And I feel like if and this is speaking to the proposal of the 75% increase, would it resolve the problem of how many season pass holders we have right now? Yeah, I'm sure it would, but I don't want that to be on the burden of the backs of the people in our membership that are the lowest income folks, because that's what would happen, and that would totally change the dynamic of our special club, and I don't want to see that happen. So I'm I am against the 75% increase overnight. I think we need to figure something else out. That's it.
Just to piggyback off that, Brad, I think even like it's not even just the lowest income. I mean, two like median, like normal working class incomes with kids, extra $1,000 for golf, that's tight.
Agreed. So yeah, it would be on the backs of those folks as well, which is why I'm against it.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I alluded to that earlier that we have very laudable goals of trying to get more diversity, more family golf, and I just it hurts me to think that a family of 3 or 4 kids would be priced out of learning how to play golf at Shennecossett. It goes against so much of what we want our Groton community to be, and I it's not so much me personally, but I think about how wonderful Groton is because there is such diversity in our town. My sons went to Fitch High School. We've been part of this community and chose not to live in other towns. We love it here, and I think it's because of that diversity in our town. So don't price out. We can't price out. I'm going to fight it. We just cannot price out people who want to play golf and are not of the upper economic strata.
That's why I think the driver range is an important addition, though, to the Shinnecossett landscape there, because that's the real introduction of kids to the game. You can't just send them out on a golf course with golf clubs, right? They got to learn the game. They got to learn how to swing a club, hit the ball. We got beautiful short game areas where they can learn the short game. What's that? I didn't hear what someone just said. Anyway, I think that's where a driver range and I think JJ's proposal for this more, upscale range was to be a money generator. The more technology you bring in, a lot of these ranges are going to this type of, with all the technology in it and a roof over it so you can hit foul weather, and looking at the payback on that. But again, maybe there's, as someone mentioned, maybe there's a compromise on that. But that is really the gateway for people to start the game, is to learn how to hit a golf ball first and learn a little bit about the game in the short game areas. And then you can let them go out on the golf course.
Great idea.
Mark, is there anyone else with their hand up that wants to speak to?
Yeah, on in regards to the driving range idea, there's Great Brook Sports, and they got a great driving range. And if you want to learn how to play golf, they also have golf instructors there on staff, and that's a great place to learn.
The problem with Great Brook, I think, for me and for other players, are that it's not open, prior to rounds. So you can't use it to warm up and hit balls before you play. You could drive over there afterwards, which I've done, to hit golf balls, after a round to work on something. But I think for a kid, years ago, I don't know if parents would do this in today's world, but I know a friend of mine, in fact, he won the Connecticut Amateur. His name's Chris Fosdick, and his mother used to just drop him at Lyman in the morning, and he'd be there all summer, just hitting balls on the range, chipping, putting with his friends, having a little something to eat and just going at it again. They have a little 9-hole course there too, which is cool. But it'd be nice to just drop the kid off, or at least have him there for a period of time where he could use the whole facility, And okay, eventually they gravitate to the golf course. So Great Brook's a good idea as well. I just think the distance of it and the hours of operation are not conducive to be a good partner at this point with Shinnecossett, and a great addition to the Shinnecossett. Everyone that I talk to that I brought to the play, they always say to Shinnecossett, they always say, well, it's great. I wish they had a better range, an area where you can hit, a few drivers before you go off and things like that. And work on your game a little bit before or even after, So it's one thing I think that it's sort of begging for if we're able to do it.
Another thing is that we might have the next Scotty Scheffler at Branford Manor, but they won't be able to play because we have 100% increase in the junior rate.
Great point. Great.
And that's unacceptable. It really is.
That's a great point. It's a great point. I don't know who said it. It's a great point.
Oh, my name's Ben, and you know me.
Ben, great point.
And then you listen to the consultant, and the consultant has some great ideas, and it's definitely it's something that we should definitely think about and definitely implement. But a 75% increase is not going to happen. It's just not happening.
Well, I don't know. For me, I think it always goes back to what I mentioned before. Is about, you know, what is the vision for the golf course?
And then if you want to go join Lake of Isles, go join Lake of Isles. You know what I mean? If you want to go play at Fox Hop Yard, go there. And those places are very expensive, and they're very, very nice golf courses. And the price reflects that.
Yeah, I think I hear. I think the majority of people. It's we're not at that level. I think we make that final decision next meeting, but I think I'm hearing, overwhelmingly, and I'm kind of in the same bucket of, we want to be good, but we don't need to be the Ferrari of golf course.
Margaret or Mark or Eric, do you know if that increase also included the cost of the driving range, or is that excluding?
So none of this includes, like, I think it's more targeted to the golf course improvements. The increase in revenue and the ability to do capital projects over time, give us the ability to do something like a driving range. It's not like we're raising the money to cost in the driving range. Most important in the priorities are those items that are on the list for course improvements and the irrigation that are in the report. And I believe there's a slide in the presentation as well. And to be able to continue to maintain and improve over time, and not just a one-time thing.
Got it. Thank you.
Can I add something?
May I?
Chuck, go ahead. Chuck, go ahead.
I wanted to touch on a couple of things. Number one was the Great Brook point, and the children coming up in golf. I think most of you know I have an 8-year-old who loves the game. I don't get him out there enough, but the combination of having him being able to use the putting green, the little chipping area down below, and the field across the street can get any young kid enticed. We also do have Great Brook, which is kind of a quasi partner with our golf course. The people who work there play here, and vice versa. Guys who play there get lessons there. So there is a good symbiosis working there. The other thing is, I'm not sure I'm hearing what the board, does the board have a definitive ideal for what they want, what the board wants the course to be? Because I think if you're hearing the public, you're hearing that we don't necessarily want our course to be much more than it is. We like where it's kind of scruffy. We certainly want 16 to 17 to have a sweeter fairway, but we love Shenny as Shenny is. And so do the hundreds, maybe thousands of people who come here. I don't think much needs to change. If we can increase the revenue enough to get some more capital projects on the board that need to be taken care of, whether it be a sprinkler system or some other things that it might need. I got a couple of trees I'd like to see cut down. But I think that we can find a nice balance here that's not going to cause my membership to go up 60% up into the $2,000 range. I'm old and retired. And I do think you will price certain people out, or not even people who are playing yet, but people who have an ideal and have a dream. I work at New London High School, and I hear kids say, yeah, Mr. Potter, I'd like to play golf. I don't know if I can introduce a kid to golf that's going to have to pay, X number of dollars to pay the guy. He's got to get to Groton too. But we love what we have. And the staff there is absolutely superb. And we are grateful for that. So I encourage temperance. And I think that is what we're hearing across the board here. Let's find an increase that'll allow more people to come in and pay, and will allow us to generate the income to keep our course as it is and to make progressive improvements as time moves forward. Any questions for me? I'm going to have supper.
Can I add something in that? I think that Shennecossett is in a sweet spot with the price. People come to Shennecossett because it's affordable. I think if you raise the membership rates, you raise the green fees rates, you're not going to get people to travel here. There's so many better options. Not saying that this course is a bad option, but if you're living in Hartford, you're not going to come to Shennecossett if the greens fees are 50, 60, $70 to walk. It's not feasible. I'd rather go play Portland or Keeney Park. It doesn't make sense. Another thing too about the range thing, um, there's a range up in Norwich called Nippy's driving range. It's completely automated. There's nobody that works there. You put $5 in and you get a bucket of balls, and then nobody has to worry about it. There's no maintenance. The only thing you have to do is actually pick the balls up. That could be something you implement. If you do a driving range, you have to add a net, because it's just not large enough. Something like, you know, uh, Great Neck Country Club, they don't have a large driving range. You can't hit drivers there. It's only like a short game to like maybe a long iron. It's only about 220 yards to the end of the net, which is kind of like what we have. So you're not going to ever really be able to hit drivers there unless they completely change the location. It's probably not feasible, but yeah, that's what I had to add. I just don't think that we don't need to try to be something that we're not. You know, keep Shennecossett, a municipality public course. It's cheap and affordable. That's why people play here. You get all walks of life, and that's the best part about it.
Amen.
Floor is open. Anyone else want other feedback? Appreciate everyone's feedback so far. It's been good. Do we just wrap the meeting up then, or what should our next steps be? Are you there?
Yep. So, Mark, I can't hear you.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think there's a lot to digest. I'm going to follow up to see if I can get some of the information that was requested earlier on about the assumption of the 5% decrease. Um, and, it's really up to the GAB and the Parks and Rec Commission to kind of settle in on, based on what they've heard, settle on what they think is going to be uh, help us achieve the goals. I certainly don't think that JJ was proposing that we become Lake of Isles. I think he's looking at the fundamental needs of the golf course. I know he and Eric spent a great deal of time and some of the other team going over what needs to be done. And, that comes to, I think, north of $7 million. And we've got to figure out a way to get those fundamental improvements paid for.
Do we know what exactly is the expense for maintenance at Shennecossett? I feel like um, the beauty of Shennecossett is kind of because it's kind of rough around the edges. That's what makes Shennecossett Shennecossett. We have great greens. That's what makes people come here. You have great putting conditions. Uh, and that's the majority of the game is putting, obviously. I think whatever we're doing is great. If we can keep the conditions how they are, is fine. If you increase the prices, I mean, what is it going to? Because it's overnight, you're not going to make the golf course into pristine shape. You would have to change the whole irrigation system. I mean, it would cost millions of dollars to do it. And it doesn't need to happen. Shennecossett doesn't require a lot of water. It's kind of the beauty of it. It's almost like it's like impermeable to the elements. You don't even need to like water it as much as other golf courses. It's just kind of like baked into the formula.
Yeah, Dill, I agree. It's like Newport Country Club has no irrigation, um, other than greens and tee boxes.
Right.
So
And
our
then
course
that's
plays the
what we
best
have.
when it's toasty,
And that's the beauty of it. I don't think increasing the prices is gonna make the course have more revenue. I think you're gonna make people have to choose between playing there or playing somewhere, where they're from. Or I know for me, and I just had a child and I'm married and we both work. I think $2,800, I can't play at Shennecossett. I can't do it. It's not feasible for me. And I've been a member there since 2016. And, you know, raising all these rates, and what Margaret said about $20, that's for junior memberships. That's not for the majority. There's very minor juniors that actually play at Shennecossett. I would go off to say that we're losing junior memberships. If you just look around, there's really no young people that play the golf course. Only like the high school teams, you know? And or just like people bringing their kids out to putt or chip. There's not young people playing the game. It's an older person sport, people that have money to spend on a game, you know? I don't know. I just think we're kind of out of touch. And with the town hiring somebody to come up with like this, solution, their job is to say, yeah, you guys, uh, you guys need to make more money. That's what, if they said, no, lower the rates, it's like, why'd you hire them? Doesn't make sense. Their job is to say, yeah, raise the price. And that guy is from Colorado. They get to play, depending on where you're at in Colorado, you can play year round. At Shennecossett, you really can't. We do have winners, and we've been blessed with a couple winners of late where you could play like in the winter months, but it's not realistic.
Yeah, so Dylan, thank you for your comments. I would just say that maybe it would be good to sit down with Eric at some point and talk about what actually is involved in maintaining a golf course, even one that doesn't appear to need as much irrigation as other courses based on the style. But the maintenance of the course, it is costly. There are repairs that need to be done. The irrigation system is even if it's just for tee boxes and greens, it is there. It's old, it's antiquated, and it needs to be replaced at some point. And so those are all the things that are under consideration. We also, I mean, I think he didn't just look at rates. Rates are the things that have seemed to have popped out. But you can also go and take a look. I mean, just back up a little bit on the cost of the maintenance. You can go and look in the overall report, and I believe in the presentation, but in the report, he lays out exactly what he and Eric talked about in terms of what needs to be done to the golf course. So I would highly recommend everybody on the call take some time and read the report. It's about 118 pages or something like that, but it's a worthwhile read to just kind of get a basic understanding in on that level. just going to correct one thing. When I made the comment about averaging about $20 a round, there are statistics, and I think Mark will try and find them, where we can see that there are a number of season pass holders who play in the 60 plus rounds a year range. So if you're paying $1,700 a year divided by 60, that's $30. That certainly is not that. But if you're a weekday player who, you know, is paying in the $1,300 range and are playing 60 rounds a year, your total cost for playing averages out to about $20 to $25 a round. And that's what I was referring to, not the greens fee cost for coming and playing on a daily basis. But I just feel sometimes that we don't give Eric the support and the tools that he needs. Yes, it of course appears to be in great condition. He does a phenomenal job with the resources that he has, but he also, in my opinion, deserves a little bit more in order to really play out what he'd like to be able to do with the golf course. And I don't think he's aiming to make it like a Viles. Eric, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't even think he's trying to make it Sandwich or any of the other fancy Shinnecock Hills or anything along those lines. But we do need a course that can be sustained and maintained over time and exists 20 years down the road for your kids and for your grandchildren and whomever else. And that's the ultimate goal of what we're trying to do here.
Thanks. Mark, can you provide the details of the next meeting? And is it a public meeting also, or just the two commissions, or what is it for the one on the 6th?
Mark, we're not hearing you again.
Sorry about that. The next proposed joint meeting is Monday, January 6th, and that is a regularly scheduled golf advisory board meeting, and that kicks off at 7 o'clock. And all meetings are open to the public.
And it's all virtual for both folks, or in person for
Yes,
the committee?
virtual.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
So, Margaret, you mentioned looking at the report, the 150-page report. Where is that? How do people access that? And for those of us that thought the meeting started at 6, where do we find the recording later?
The recording will be available on YouTube. Usually if you start your search through the town library, they have staff that record all of these meetings and post it. So you should be able to find it there. The first hour of the meeting was the Parks and Recreation Commission, and that was a presentation by the consultant.
Okay, and the report?
The report should also be available on the town webpage. If you go back to the meeting on December 2nd, which was the Golf Advisory Board, that was an attachment to that meeting. Then we can also try to get it posted up on the Shennecossett webpage.
Thank you.
Mark, I'd propose that we go to adjourn the meeting then, if no one else has anything pressing, and then I think we had a lot of good thoughts tonight. I think we'll reconvene in January. Folks will hopefully go out and poll. We heard from some public, there's some commissioners tonight, but I think, go out and from the clubs right now, you can bring some of this information back to your here, folks. I'm going to bring it back to league I play in personally. I think, if we get the greater public feedback, we heard a good session tonight, which I think was pretty similar feedback from everyone we heard. Is at least from my takeaway, most majority of people had the same style comments. I'm sure we'll get that from the rest, but this is a time to go firm that up as commissioner. So propose we adjourn and continue in January, but floor is open for anyone that had anything else to add, or if not, Mark, we'll adjourn.
Okay, so I think we'd actually need a motion from the Parks and Rec Commission, and then also, because this was a golf advisory board special meeting, so I guess two different motions in order to follow Robert's rules.
All right, this is Jim. I'll make a motion to adjourn the Parks and Rec Commission meeting.
Elizabeth, and I second the motion.
All right, any discussion, or all those in favor?
Aye. Favor.
Aye.
Okay, and then, I don't know, Margaret, can you, or somebody, Marie, or somebody, make a motion to adjourn the golf advisory board meeting?
I make a motion to adjourn the golf advisory board meeting.
Brad seconds.
All right, any further discussion? If not, please signify by saying aye for those in favor.
Aye.
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 Perfect. All right, thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Have a good Christmas, all.
Thank you, Marie.